A man tried to kidnap me at 11. 17 years later, I discovered the real reason why. When I was 11, a man tried to abduct me while I was walking home from school. Everyone said it was a random predator. A close call. A man tried to kidnap me at 11. Years later, I discovered the truth behind it. When I was 11, something happened that changed how I saw the world forever. I almost got kidnapped. And it wasn't some vague fear or shadowy figure, it was real. Personal. Traumatizing. My family had recently moved to a new town. I didn't know anyone, didn't have friends yet, and spent most of my afternoons walking home from school alone. That day was just like any other. Until it wasn't. I took my usual shortcut through the woods. It was quiet, leaves crunching underfoot, the late sun breaking through the trees. Then I heard it, twigs snapping. I turned and saw a man standing in the path. He was tall, wearing a baseball cap low over his eyes. He didn't smile. "Hey," he said. "You know the way to Maple Street?" I shook my head, took a step back. "Come on," he said, stepping forward. "You sure? You look like a smart kid." Every part of me screamed run. So I did. I bolted back toward the street, heart pounding. I heard his footsteps behind me, fast, angry. He was chasing me. Just as I hit the edge of the trail, a woman walking her dog came around the bend. The man stopped. Vanished into the trees. I collapsed into her arms, sobbing. She walked me home and called the police. They never caught him. My parents were furious, at each other, at the world. My mom blamed my dad for choosing a cheap, unsafe neighborhood. My dad installed cameras and started picking me up from school himself. Eventually, life moved on. But that moment stayed with me. A scar I couldn't explain. I spent years trying to forget his face. Film frames fast forward, 17 years later. I'm 28 now. I live alone, work at a bookstore cafe, and most days are fine. Not good. Not bad. Just fine. Until one Wednesday afternoon, a man came in. He looked familiar. Late 40s, clean-cut, expensive coat. He didn't order anything. Just stood there at the window, watching me shelve books. Finally, he spoke. "Maple Street. Ring a bell?" I froze. 17 years collapsed into a single second. I couldn't breathe. He gave me a slow, knowing smile. "Didn't think you'd remember. But I remember you. You were fast for a kid." My hands were shaking. "What do you want?" "Nothing now. Just closure. And maybe to apologize." He slipped a card across the counter. "Brent W., logistics consultant." Then he left. I called the police. They ran the name. No priors. No records matching the full description. No address. Nothing to pursue. So I did what I'd trained myself to do, survive. I changed my locks. Stopped walking home alone. Started carrying pepper spray again. But sleep? That didn't come. Because the question wasn't who he was anymore. It was why me? 2 weeks later, I got a letter in the mail. No return address. Inside, a photo of me at 11, standing in front of our old house. On the back, a note. "Your parents didn't tell you everything." That was the moment I knew. This wasn't random. It never had been. If I wanted to find the truth, I had to go backward, all the way back. And there was only one person who might have answers. My father. My dad lied to me for 17 years. The truth shattered me. My father and I aren't close. After my parents divorced when I was 15, he moved across the state and slowly faded into the background of my life. Birthdays missed, voicemails unanswered, vague holiday texts with too many emojis. But now, after receiving that photo, I had no choice. I needed answers. So I drove to his house. A modest place in a quiet cul-de-sac. The lawn was overgrown. The porch light flickered. When he opened the door and saw me, his face froze. "Something wrong?" he asked, voice cautious. "We need to talk." He made us coffee. Sat in silence as I slid the photo across the table. "Someone mailed that to me." He stared at it for a long time. Then whispered, almost to himself, "God, after all these years." I leaned forward. Who was that man? Why did he try to take me? He didn't speak for a full minute. Then finally. His name was Brent Whitaker. He worked for someone I used to know. A man named Charles Maddox. Used to know? Used to owe. Turns out, my father wasn't always the quiet desk clerk he claimed to be. In his 20s, he ran with people who operated in the gray. Transport. Security. Occasionally, collection. He got involved with Maddox, a man who ran an underground logistics network, a fancy term for moving things that shouldn't be moved. My dad wanted out. Said he'd seen things he couldn't forget. When he tried to walk away, Maddox gave him a choice. Finish one last job, or pay in blood. He refused. A month later, I was almost taken. We thought it was over when we moved. That you were safe. We never imagined they'd come back. I was shaking. So you just lied to me? My whole life? We were trying to protect you. By making me feel crazy? Unsafe? Like I was just some unlucky kid? He looked at me, eyes glassy. You were never unlucky. You were targeted. I left without another word. I didn't need protection. I needed truth. And now I had it, in pieces. That night, I looked up Charles Maddox. The name brought up almost nothing, just whispers in old message boards, shady mentions in court records, and a mugshot from 15 years ago tied to fraudulent contracting. And Brent? Still nothing. Like he never existed. But the feeling I had, that pressure in my chest, told me he did. And that he wasn't finished. The next morning, I found another envelope. This time, it was slipped under the door at the bookstore cafe. Inside, a second photo. Me, from yesterday, standing outside my father's house. On the back. You're looking in the right places. But be careful who you trust. Brent was watching me. But the question was he threatening me, or warning me? Brent was watching me. But who was watching him? I couldn't stop thinking about Brent's last message. Be careful who you trust. It wasn't a threat. It was a warning. And it was more than just about me. It was about something larger. Something deeper. That night, I called my dad. Again. I know you think you're protecting me, but I'm not a kid anymore. I need you to tell me everything. I can't. You don't understand. If I tell you everything, it'll put us both in danger. Danger. The word hung between us. But my father wasn't the one I needed to worry about anymore. The next morning, I decided to do something I should have done weeks ago. I went back to the plaza. To the same place I met Brent. He hadn't been back since that night, but I needed answers. I needed to understand why he was suddenly reappearing in my life after all these years. It was a warm afternoon when I saw him again. Brent stood by the fountain, just like the first time, casually sipping from a coffee cup. His smile was gone, replaced with a tension I hadn't seen before. You came, he said without surprise, as if he'd known I would. You told me to. I warned you, he said. You didn't listen. I stepped forward, not caring who was watching. My heart was pounding in my chest. Why now? Why all these years later? He paused, his eyes flicking around the plaza before meeting mine. There was something off. Something different. Because it's time. Time for you to choose. I've been waiting for you to figure it out. You're not as blind as your father thinks. I felt the weight of his words. The air around us grew thick. What am I supposed to figure out? What's your endgame here? Brent didn't answer immediately. Instead, he took another sip of his coffee and nodded toward the street. Come with me. I'll show you. We drove out to the outskirts of the city, where the buildings became fewer and the roads more cracked. He led me down a dirt path that eventually turned into a small, dilapidated warehouse. It looked abandoned, an old industrial building that had seen better days. Brent didn't say anything as he led me inside. The place was dark, except for a small light coming from a desk in the corner. Sitting at that desk was a man I didn't recognize, a middle-aged man with graying hair and a nervous expression. Brent gestured for me to sit. This is where it all started, he said, his voice low. This is where we set the wheels in motion. The man at the desk looked up, his eyes wary. He didn't seem like he wanted to be there. And I definitely didn't want to be here either. You're not going to get away with this, I said, standing up, ready to walk out. Brent's hand shot out, stopping me. Not so fast. You're in this now. You can walk away, but it won't end well for you. I turned to face him. What are you talking about? Brent sighed, running a hand through his hair. You don't know everything, do you? He glanced over at the man behind the desk. The truth is, your father isn't the only one who had secrets. And just like that, the pieces started to fall into place. The man behind the desk was involved. And Brent had been watching me this whole time, not because he wanted to hurt me, but because he needed to use me. I felt the walls closing in. The ground beneath my feet was shifting. Brent's next words hit me harder than anything he'd said before. It's not just about your father, or Maddox. It's about you. Your family. The connections your father made, the deals he was part of, they don't just go away. They come back. They come back for you. The truth wasn't just about what happened to me when I was a kid. It was about what my family had built. And how I was the key to destroying it all, or protecting it. I was the bait. Now I'm the trap. I stood in the center of that abandoned warehouse, staring at Brent, heart racing, mind spinning. He had just told me everything I was afraid to admit, that I wasn't a victim of some random act of violence at 11. I was the lever. A piece used to control my father. You think you can drag me into this? I snapped. I didn't choose any of this. Brent shook his head slowly. No. But you're the only one who can end it. He handed me a file, thick, manila, worn at the corners. Inside, photos, wire transfers, encrypted names, offshore accounts. Proof. All of it. These are the people your father worked with. Some of them still do what Maddox started. Quietly. Cleanly. From the shadows. Why are you showing me this? Because someone's going to leak it. The question is, will it be you? I sat with that file all night. The next morning, I called my father. He answered on the second ring. It's happening again, isn't it? I didn't respond. Just let silence hang. Finally, he whispered, tired. What did they offer you? They didn't offer anything, I said. They gave me a choice. Then choose survival. But I didn't want to survive anymore. I wanted to live on my own terms. So I did something irreversible. I met with Alex, my friend, the journalist. I gave her a duplicate of the file. If I disappear, if anything happens, you run this. Everything. No hesitation. She looked at me like I was insane. You sure about this? I'm sure I'm done being scared. Later that day, Brent called. I heard you've been busy. You gave me the truth. Now I'm using it. There was a pause. You know they'll come for you. Let them. But they'll have to do it in public now. You're brave. No. I'm finally angry. That night, I returned home to find my apartment door slightly open. I didn't go inside. Instead, I walked across the street and called the police anonymously. When they arrived, they found nothing stolen, but my couch cushions had been slashed, and a note pinned to the fridge with a kitchen knife. Stay silent. I checked into a hotel that night under a fake name. The next day, I packed up what I needed and vanished. Package 2 weeks later, a major news outlet published an exposé on Maddox's network. Several arrests were made. 2 politicians resigned. 1 banking CEO took a sudden leave of absence. My name was never mentioned. But I saw Brent's shadow in every headline. Clapperboard epilogue. I live under a new name now. Smaller town. Fewer people. Peaceful, for now. Some nights I still hear the sound of footsteps behind me. I still wake up thinking someone's watching. But it's getting better. And maybe someday, I'll stop glancing over my shoulder entirely. But I'll never stop being ready. Because they tried to use me as bait. And in the end, I became the trap. We all think our childhood ghosts are behind us. But sometimes, they're just waiting for us to stop running, so they can catch up. Mine did. But I turned around, and faced them,